Ever wondered if that little copper penny in your drawer is actually worth a small fortune? You might be surprised. In this video, we're counting down the top 5 most valuable United States 1-cent coins, pennies that collectors dream about and history lovers admire. From rare minting errors to Civil War-era coins, these cents are worth way more than just 1 cent. So grab your magnifying glass and let's dive into some of America's most fascinating small change. The 1964 penny is made primarily of a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, as was standard for pennies minted from 1944 until 1964. This composition gave the coin a rich reddish color that collectors admire for its aesthetic appeal. The reverse side of the coin features the familiar Lincoln wheat ears design, created by Brenner as well. This wheat penny design was used from 1909 until 1958. But interestingly, pennies minted in 1964 with the wheat design do not exist. 1964 pennies feature the Lincoln Memorial reverse, introduced in 1959. So, the 1964 penny's reverse side showcases the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a tribute to Lincoln's legacy and a symbol of national pride. In 1964, the United States Mint produced an enormous number of pennies, approximately 4.6 billion. This high mintage was partly driven by the demand for coins in everyday transactions during a booming post-war economy. Because of this massive quantity, the 1964 penny is considered very common and generally not rare. However, its value is not solely determined by how many were made, but by the condition, mint mark, and any rare errors that might have occurred during production. Most 1964 pennies were minted at the Philadelphia Mint and bear no mint mark, but some were produced at the Denver Mint, identifiable by a small D under the date. The Philadelphia coins are the most common, while the Denver minted coins are less abundant, but still not considered rare. In circulated condition, a typical 1964 penny is worth only its face value, 1 cent. However, when the coin is in uncirculated condition or in particularly high grades, such as MS-65 or higher, collectors may pay more, typically a few dollars, because of the coin's excellent preservation and eye appeal. There are also a few collectible varieties to watch for. One of the most notable is the 1964 doubled die obverse penny, where the date and letters on the front of the coin appear doubled due to a minting error. These error coins are highly sought after and can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition. However, authentic doubled die 1964 pennies are quite rare, so caution and proper authentication are necessary before making any high-value purchases. The history behind the 1964 penny also connects to an important moment in U.S. coinage. In 1965, the composition of the penny changed drastically due to rising copper prices. The mint switched to a mostly zinc core with a thin copper plating, a composition that continues to this day. Therefore, the 1964 penny represents the last year of the classic solid copper penny that many collectors prefer for its heft, color, and historical significance. Another interesting fact about the 1964 penny is that it was in circulation during significant historical events, including the Civil Rights Movement and the early years of the Vietnam War. This adds an extra layer of cultural and historical context to this humble coin, making it more than just currency. It's a small piece of American history that passed through the hands of millions. Next up, the 1971 D1 cent coin from the United States is a common yet interesting piece of American currency that reflects both the era in which it was made and the enduring presence of Abraham Lincoln on our nation's coinage. While it's not considered rare or particularly valuable in most cases, The 1971 D penny has its place in the rich story of U.S. minting history and continues to attract the attention of collectors, especially those completing sets or looking for high-grade or error specimens. The coin was struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. In 1971, the Denver Mint produced over 2.9 billion of these 1-cent coins. That massive number means the coin is very common in circulation and easily found in penny jars, old drawers, and pocket change across the country. From a collector's perspective, the high mintage makes it quite accessible, though not inherently valuable, unless it meets certain criteria. The obverse of the 1971 D penny features the familiar right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. It's notable as the first U.S. coin to bear the image of a real person. On the reverse, the coin bears the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears that had appeared on the reverse from 1909 to 1958. If you look closely at the memorial design, especially under magnification, you can even make out a tiny image of the seated statue of Lincoln, mimicking the real-life monument in Washington, D.C. The coin's composition in 1971 remained the traditional alloy used for decades prior: 95% copper and 5% zinc. 5% zinc. That changed in 1982, when the mint shifted to a mostly zinc composition with only a thin copper coating due to rising metal costs. So, the 1971 D penny is one of the last generations of solid copper cents, giving it a slightly heavier feel and a richer reddish-brown tone, especially when well preserved. In circulated condition, the 1971 D penny typically holds no more than its face value. Most examples show signs of wear, including flattened details on Lincoln's face, the steps of the memorial, and the lettering along the rim. Even in fine condition, these coins usually trade for just 1 or 2 cents among collectors. However, if a 1971 D penny is found in uncirculated condition, especially one with strong original red color, known as red in grading terms, it becomes more desirable. A red uncirculated example might sell for between $1 and $5 depending on the grade, and coins that have been professionally certified as MS 65 or higher can reach up to $10 or slightly more. Those numbers aren't eye-popping, but for collectors completing a Lincoln Memorial cent collection, finding a pristine 1971 D is still a small triumph. Next up, the 1993 D United States 1-cent coin, commonly known as a Lincoln penny, is one of the most produced and circulated coins in modern American currency. Struck at the Denver Mint, which is signified by the small D beneath the date, this penny features the familiar right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. The design was originally created by Victor David Brenner and has been a staple of American coinage since 1909. On the reverse side is the image of the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which appeared on pennies from 1959 through 2008. By 1993, the composition of the penny had changed from earlier all-copper designs. The 1993 D penny is made of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, with the copper applied as a thin coating over a zinc core. This change, which began in 1982, was intended to reduce production costs as the price of copper had risen significantly. As a result, 1993 D pennies have a lighter weight and a slightly different tone than pre-1982 solid copper cents. In terms of mintage, the 1993 D penny was produced in massive numbers. Over 6.4 billion of these coins were struck at the Denver Mint alone. making it extremely common in everyday circulation. With such a high quantity produced, the coin holds little to no premium in most circulated conditions. If you find one in your pocket change or in an old coin jar, it's most likely worth just its face value of 1 cent. However, condition plays a key role in determining a coin's value to collectors. A 1993 D penny that is still in brilliant uncirculated condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear and retains its original luster, can have modest value. Coins that have been well preserved in mint rolls or coin sets and have no scratches or discoloration may sell for a few cents to $1, depending on eye appeal and market demand. If a 1993 D penny is graded by a professional service and receives a high mint state grade, especially MS Affier 66 or above with full red color, it may be worth between $5 and $15, though this is relatively rare due to the high standards required for such grades. There are also some rare mint errors that can increase the value of a 1993 D penny significantly. These include coins that were struck off-center, have a doubled die, or were struck on the wrong type of planchet. While these errors are not common, they do occur and can make an otherwise ordinary penny worth anywhere from $10 to several hundred, depending on the severity and collectability of the error. Next up, the 2007 United States 1-cent coin, often referred to simply as a penny, is part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial Cent series. This coin features the right-facing profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design originally introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of his birth. The reverse side shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo that was used from 1959 through 2008. This makes the 2007 penny one of the final issues to feature the Lincoln Memorial before it was replaced by the Lincoln Bicentennial designs in 2009. The 2007 penny was minted in very large numbers at multiple facilities. The two most common versions are the 2007 with no mint mark, which was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the 2007 D, produced in Denver. Combined, the U.S. Mint issued billions of these coins, making them extremely common and easily found in pocket change. In circulated condition, especially with visible wear or discoloration, the coin holds only its face value of 1 cent. The composition of the 2007 penny follows the standard introduced in 1982. It is made of 97.5% zinc, with a thin outer layer of 2.5% copper. Because of the high zinc content, these coins are more susceptible to corrosion, especially if they are exposed to moisture or acidic environments. When a penny begins to turn black or dark brown, it is often the result of environmental damage rather than a special minting feature. The black shade or tarnishing may occur due to oxidation or prolonged exposure to dirt, oil, or chemicals. It is not a mint error and does not increase the value of the coin. In fact, a 2007 penny with a blackened surface and in poor condition is generally considered damaged and is of no numismatic premium. Even collectors looking to complete a set would prefer a clean, uncirculated example. A heavily worn, corroded, or discolored coin is not suitable for serious collection and would not sell for more than its face value. However, there are rare instances where unusual mint errors can occur on 2007 pennies. These errors might include off-center strikes, doubled dies, or coins struck on the wrong metal planchets. Such errors are quite rare and can only be confirmed with a proper inspection by an expert or a coin grading service. If your 2007 penny has something unusual beyond just discoloration, like clear doubling of the letters or numbers, an irregular shape, or extreme thickness or thinness, it could be worth having it examined professionally. But discoloration alone, especially turning black, is almost always environmental and not an error. So if you're holding a 2007 penny that appears black or heavily worn, it's likely been exposed to the elements or stored in poor conditions over time. It doesn't hold any extra value due to the discoloration, and in the coin collecting world, condition is everything. A well-preserved coin can be worth several times more than a damaged one. In the case of the 2007 penny, however, even uncirculated examples are only worth a few cents, unless they are certified at a very high grade, such as MS 67 or higher. Next up, the 1973 United States 1-cent coin, commonly known as a Lincoln penny, is part of a long tradition in American coinage. Like all Lincoln cents from 1959 to 2008, it features two classic designs. On the obverse, or front, is the right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This portrait was introduced in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday, making it the first U.S. coin to depict a real historical figure. On the reverse side is the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which replaced the earlier wheat ears design and remained on the back of the penny for nearly 50 years. In 1973, these pennies were produced at 3 different U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, while those from Denver carry a small D below the date, and the San Francisco coins are marked with an S. The most common of the 3 are the Philadelphia and Denver issues, which together had a combined mintage of over 7 billion coins. This massive production makes the 1973 penny very common, even decades later. The 1973 penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which was the standard composition for U.S. cents at the time. Each coin weighs approximately 3.11 grams. This copper composition was used consistently until 1982, when the mint switched to a primarily zinc-based core to reduce costs. Because of their high copper content, pre-1982 pennies like the 1973 issue have become popular not just with collectors, but also with metal enthusiasts, since the value of the copper alone can sometimes approach or slightly exceed 1 cent, depending on market prices. In terms of condition, a 1973 penny described as being in fine condition has seen some circulation, but retains clear design details. It might show moderate wear, especially on Lincoln's cheek and jawline, or on the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, but the major features remain visible. However, because the coin is so common, even in fine condition, it holds very little collector value. Most 1,973 pennies in average circulated condition are worth only face value, 1 cent. For coins in much better condition, particularly those that are uncirculated or have been graded by a professional service, the value can be slightly higher. A 1973 penny in uncirculated condition, especially with strong red coloration and minimal marks, may be worth between 5 cents and $1. High-grade examples, especially those graded MS 66 or above by PCGS or NGC, can be worth several dollars, but these are much harder to come by and must be in near-perfect condition. There are also 1973 S Lincoln cents that were made specifically for proof sets. These proof coins were struck with specially polished dies and are not found in general circulation. If you come across a 1973 S proof penny in good condition, its value can range from $1 to $3 or more, depending on quality and eye appeal. However, proof coins will have a highly reflective surface and sharp details, making them easy to distinguish from regular circulated coins. Found for this one. First up, the 1958 Jefferson nickel was minted during a period of relative peace and prosperity in America. Shortly after the Korean War, and during the post-World War II economic boom. Unlike some earlier or later nickels, the 1958 version was made with the standard composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This means it does not contain any silver, like the wartime nickels from the early 1940s. When it comes to mintage, the 1958 nickel was produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark on nickels until 1968, so the Philadelphia coins simply have the date on the obverse. The Denver Mint coins feature a small D mint mark located to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. In 1958, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 176 million nickels, while the Denver Mint produced around 50 million. This makes the Denver Mint 1958 nickel a bit scarcer compared to its Philadelphia counterpart, though both are still considered relatively common in circulated condition. In terms of value, a 1958 Jefferson nickel in fine condition will typically range from about 20 cents to $1, depending on the specific grade and eye appeal. Fine condition means the coin shows moderate wear, but all major details are visible and clear, including the outline of Jefferson's profile and the architectural details of Monticello. It will show some flattening of high points, but no major damage or corrosion. For collectors, coins in this condition are common and affordable, often serving as solid entry points for those beginning a Jefferson nickel collection. If the coin is in higher grades like very fine, extra fine, or uncirculated, the value can increase significantly. Uncirculated 1958 nickels with full mint luster and no noticeable contact marks can be worth around $5 to $15 or more, depending on the exact grading. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC will typically fetch higher prices due to the guaranteed authenticity and condition. Another interesting detail about the 1958 Jefferson nickel is that it is part of the third design period for Jefferson nickels. The original design was slightly modified during the early 1940s for wartime production, then returned to the original style after the war. The 1958 nickel carries the traditional design without any major variations, making it representative of classic Jefferson nickels minted during the 1950s. It's worth noting that there are no known major errors or rare varieties for the 1958 nickel, which means the value mostly depends on condition and mint mark. However, coin enthusiasts still appreciate the 1958 nickel for its historical significance and its place within the long Jefferson nickel series, which continues to this day with updated designs. For those interested in collecting or investing, it's always a good idea to look for coins with clear, strong strikes and minimal surface wear. Cleaning a nickel can damage its value, so always handle coins carefully and consider professional grading if you believe your coin is in particularly good condition. Next up, the Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with his famous Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. The design you see on the 2011 P nickel is part of the long-running Jefferson nickel series, which has seen a few design changes over the years, but generally remains faithful to the original concept created by Felix Schlag. The 2011 P Jefferson nickel was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P mint mark on the coin. This particular year is notable because it was part of a special series called the Westward Journey Nickel Series, which ran from 2004 through 2006, but by 2011, the design had returned to the classic Monticello reverse. In 2011, the Philadelphia Mint produced a very large number of Jefferson nickels, with mintages totaling over 696 million coins. This high mintage means that the 2011 P nickel is quite common in circulation today, and finding one in average condition is easy. Regarding the coin's composition, the 2011 nickel continues to use the standard copper-nickel clad, 75% copper and 25% nickel, the same formula used since 1946, except for the World War II. War nickels, which had silver content. When it comes to value, the 2011 P. Jefferson nickel is generally worth face value, that is, 5 cents, when found in circulated condition. Because of its massive production and the lack of rare varieties or errors for this year, it does not carry a premium in everyday condition. However, uncirculated or proof versions of the 2011 P. Jefferson nickel can be worth a bit more to collectors. For example, an uncirculated 2011 P nickel in pristine condition, such as one graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services, might sell for around $1 to $3. Proof coins, which are specially made for collectors with a mirrored finish and sharp details, can command slightly higher prices, depending on the set or packaging they come in. One thing to note about modern nickels like the 2011 P is that while they may not be rare, their role as everyday currency means they're a great way to start or expand a Jefferson nickel collection without breaking the bank. Collectors often look for coins with full luster, sharp strike, and no surface marks, which can add value beyond the coin's face value. In summary, the 2011 P. Jefferson nickel is a plentiful, classic example of America's long-standing nickel tradition. While it's usually only worth its face value in circulated condition, uncirculated and proof versions do have some modest collectible value. Its enduring design honors Thomas Jefferson and his legacy, continuing a story that's been told on nickels for more than 80 years. Next up, the Jefferson nickel design has been a staple of American coinage since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. The design, created by Felix Schlag, has seen only a few changes over the decades, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The 1971 Jefferson nickel was minted at 2 locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia mint coins do not carry a mint mark, while Denver minted nickels feature a small D mint mark to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. In 1971, the United States was in the midst of the Vietnam War era, and coin production was stable with no changes to the nickel's composition. The nickel continued to be made from a copper-nickel clad, 75% copper and 25% nickel, a formula that had been in place since 1946. Regarding mintage numbers, the 1971 nickels were produced in very high quantities. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 430 million coins, while the Denver Mint produced more than 280 million. This large production means the 1971 Jefferson nickel is very common and widely available in circulation today. Because of the high mintage and the lack of significant errors or rare varieties, the 1971 nickel is generally worth its face value in circulated condition. Collectors looking for these coins in average condition will usually pay about 5 cents, the coin's face value. However, value increases if the coin is found in higher grades, such as uncirculated condition. A 1971 nickel in mint state condition can be worth anywhere from $1 to $3, depending on the quality, with coins graded MS65 or higher commanding a premium among collectors. There are no well-known major varieties or mint errors for the 1971 nickel, so its collectible interest comes mainly from condition and being part of the Jefferson nickel collection. One interesting note about the 1971 nickel is that it represents the continuation of the classic Monticello reverse design just a few years before the introduction of the Westward Journey series in 2004. This means it's part of the standard Jefferson nickel era. beloved by collectors who appreciate consistency and historical continuity. For anyone interested in collecting or investing, 1971 Jefferson nickels offer a great way to fill out a date set or to collect coins from the Vietnam War era. They are easy to find, affordable, and carry the timeless Jefferson design that has become an American numismatic icon. In summary, the 1971 Jefferson nickel is a common but classic coin with a straightforward value profile, worth face value in circulated grades and a modest premium in uncirculated grades. It holds a steady place in Jefferson nickel history and remains a popular choice among collectors for its enduring design and historical context. Next up, the Jefferson nickel was introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it quickly became one of the most iconic coin designs in U.S. history. The coin features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, designed by Felix Schlag, with Jefferson's Virginia home, Monticello, depicted on the reverse. The 1940 Jefferson nickel carries this original design that would stay in use for many decades. In 1940, the United States was still recovering from the Great Depression and was on the brink of entering World War II. The coin's design and production reflect a period of stability before the major changes that wartime coinage would bring. The 1940 Jefferson nickels were produced at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark. Denver coins have a small D mint mark, and San Francisco coins are marked with an S, both located on the reverse side to the right of Monticello. In terms of mintage, 1940 saw significant production numbers. About 113 million nickels struck at Philadelphia, roughly 49 million at Denver, and around 30 million at San Francisco. These numbers make the 1940 nickel relatively common, though the San Francisco mint coins tend to be scarcer than their Philadelphia and Denver counterparts. Regarding composition, the 1940 Jefferson nickel is made from the standard copper nickel clad, 75% copper and 25% nickel. This was before the introduction of war nickels during 1942 to 1945, which contained silver. When it comes to value, the 1940 Jefferson nickel's worth depends largely on its condition and mint mark. In circulated condition, these coins typically range from 10 to 50 cents, depending on where. The San Francisco mint coins generally carry a small premium due to their lower mintage. For collectors, uncirculated examples of the 1940 nickel can be quite valuable. Coins graded MS-60 mint state may sell for around $5 to $10, while higher-grade specimens with sharp details and full luster can command $20 or more. The rarest and most pristine examples graded MS-65 or above could fetch even higher prices among serious collectors. An important note for collectors is to examine the coin carefully for any damage or cleaning, as these factors greatly affect value. Also, check the mint mark location and clarity, as this confirms the coin's origin and helps establish rarity. There are no widely recognized major errors or varieties from the 1940 Jefferson nickel, making it a straightforward date to collect. However, its historical context, minted just before the United States entered World War II, adds an intangible value for history enthusiasts. In summary, the 1940 Jefferson nickel is a classic example of mid-20th century American coinage. It carries the timeless design of Thomas Jefferson and Monticello, minted in large numbers, but still sought after by collectors for its historical significance and condition-based value. Whether you find one in your change or add it to a collection, it represents a beautiful piece of U.S. history.